All right, let's kick this thing off. We don't have anyone here right now in the Hangout, but I think I'll just get started and kind of explain a little bit about who I am, what we're doing here, and then see if anyone has any questions. You guys are welcome to ask questions in the event, and you can join the Hangout directly here, or there's also a Q&A app, which I'm about to enable, and you guys can ask questions there too. But just to introduce myself, my name is Eric Troutman. I'm the founder of the Viking Code School, and the Viking Code School is a fully online web development bootcamp, which is a 14-week program that starts on June 29th, 2015, and we basically take people from essentially advanced beginner level with coding and web development, and we turn them into employable developers. So over the course of the program, we cover the full stack of web technologies, including Ruby, Ruby on Rails, algorithms, data structures, databases, SQL, web scraping, APIs, and we move into the front end. We cover JavaScript. We get deep into JavaScript. We go into JavaScript frameworks like Angular. Obviously, cover jQuery, and we also through that whole period we're prepping people for employment. We're doing mock interviews. We're doing algorithm prep, data structure prep. We have a hiring boot camp at the end of the program, and in the end of the day, we are about as incentivized to help you get a job as possible, because for US-based applicants, we have a policy right now where we do not charge tuition until you get a job. So there's a small deposit to enter the course, but other than that, there's basically, the tuition is fully deferred until you do get a job. So you're not having to take on student debt to get there, and it basically makes us fully accountable to your outcomes. So we basically are going to go through fire to get you there as well. So we're in this together, and we're a mission-driven company, so we basically decided to go forward with this on a mission to make this kind of top-tier education, this bootcamp style education that you get at certain in-person programs, to make that much more widely accessible and widely available. And that's basically because, in my own experiences working with bootcamps previously, I just ran into so many people who really wanted that experience, and for whatever reason, an in-person program wasn't necessarily the best fit. Or maybe some of these programs aren't quite teaching the same depth or breadth of material that that ultimately I think is most appropriate for software engineers to understand. So as a part of the arc of our program, we have publicly available prep work. It's at vikingscodeschool.com/prep. We have 4 mini courses there. They cover basically web basics, which is things like how does the web work, what do developers do, getting familiar with your command line, learning how to use Git, and just kind of getting yourself ramped up and up to speed and cycling. Then we actually have a design course which covers design, product, and UX, and that's basically because we think it's very important for developers to understand the context in which they're operating within an organization, so that we're not really here to try and to try and build code monkeys. We actually want to build full stack developers who are strong integrations with their team, the kinds of people who can talk with their product manager and ask questions back and kind of provide feedback in a way that's much more helpful than people who sort of need to be told what to do. And then we cover engineering as well in the 3rd mini course, and that course is something that we basically pulled together because nothing like it existed out there. Coming from an engineering background myself, I learned over a period of many long years what can hopefully be summarized down into a much smaller course in terms of high-level principles that are guiding the process of engineering. What is engineering? Where did we come from? How do you think like an engineer? How do you solve problems like an engineer? And then ultimately, in a modern software engineering organization, where do the engineers fit in? What are the processes that they use to bring these massive software projects to fruition? How do they work together on teams? We talk about things like agile development and test-driven development, and then we move into writing pseudocode and starting to think from a 10,000-foot view into more of a tactical view of how do you build an engineering project, and how do you ultimately start funneling that towards the code that you're going to be writing. Because in the end of the day, what engineering is really about is taking massive problems and turning them into smaller and smaller solutions that you can then dive in and tactically solve. And then the final mini course is a ramp up into coding and markup. So we start out by covering HTML and CSS basics, and then we cover Ruby basics as well. And we provide a number of projects and problems to solve along the way. So the basic arc of our program itself is that once you are accepted into the program, we basically work with you between now and when the program actually starts. So we meet with you basically every single week. You have full access to it, and your teammates on our Slack chat, all of our alumni, everything. You're officially a member of the program. You basically will, we're checking in every week as you go through the additional prep, and so as part of the additional prep, there's about probably a little bit over 100 hours of additional prep once you've been accepted, which is not part of the public-facing prep work, where you have to get up to speed and really understand some of the more advanced markup-related concepts, like working with SAS build tools, Bootstrap, HTML5, CSS3, things along that spectrum, as well as diving really deeply into Ruby itself. So you really understand where the language of Ruby is going, and then we want to give you exposure to some Ruby on Rails as well, just so you get kind of a taste of what we're going to be doing in the course. Because in the end of the day, our goal is, again, to get you rocketed out of the cannon at the end of the course, and frankly, that's much easier for us and for you if you come in with a stronger a stronger head of steam. And so that's why we spend so much effort during the prep period to work with you, again, every single week, talking to you in person, virtually, and really try and make sure that you're staying on track, that you have code review along the way, so that when you walk in that virtual door day one, that you're about to fire out of that slingshot as fast as possible. Then over the course of the program, I kind of mentioned some of what we teach. We're going to be doing a lot of employment prep as well. At the end of the program, we end up having basically a hiring day, and we make it as easy as possible for employers to find you and talk to you and essentially have kind of soft interviews with you during the employment process based on your final projects. And then once the course is officially over, it's of course not actually over, because during the job search period, we spend up to 6 months fully supporting you during your job search. Working with you while you're sort of iterating on your resume, on your interview approaches, answering questions about how the whole process works, kind of going over feedback from interviewers, talking through negotiations, answering questions about emails. So basically, in the end of the day, again, we're here for the full life cycle, from day 0 or day -1 to day that you're stepping on the job. We want to be a part of that entire process and make sure that you're going through as effectively as possible. And then once you're on the job, you become one of our wonderful alumni, and a lot of the alumni are still in our Slack channel, and so they're still pretty active. They still share all the same kinds of funny things and cat memes, etc. Also useful dev tools and answer questions about kind of life on the other side and things like that. And then we have them come back as well, as acting as mentors, acting as speakers, and things like that. So I mean, our goal is really to build a strong community of developers throughout the country and ultimately throughout the world, who've taken on this kind of education from whatever backgrounds they've come from, and have been successful, and do what we can to give that back to as many people going forward as we can. So that was a fairly long introduction, and I just want to check in and see if anyone had any questions that I could answer. I know we did one of these a couple weeks ago, and we got a lot of good questions answered. So I want to make sure that that there aren't any new ones here, and if not, that's okay. Whatever backgrounds they've. And so let me check in with our group, and let me check in with our event here. So I'm not seeing questions here popping up. There were a number of people who are going to try and make it, and it looks like maybe they had some trouble finding their way here. So I'm just going to debug that. Please, if you have any questions, go to the event. I'll post the link here. Hopefully someone will be able to see that. And I'm not going to read out the URL because that's pretty much impossible. But if you go to the event, if you're having trouble, just let me know. I'm happy to answer questions, either again on the Google group or directly in the chat here. So I think I'll probably wait around for about 5 more minutes, and if I don't get any fresh questions, we'll call it a day. All right, so I suspect we'll probably not have any additional questions, so I'm going to call it off for this week, but we will be back in the future, and I will post it in all the usual places. Thanks a lot, guys.